Hey everybody, tonight I'm working on a power supply line for my pedal board. Actually it's not a pedal board, it's more like a pedal carpet, which I'll show you some other time. But this time, this video anyway, I'd like to focus on how I built my power supply and power to all my pedals, because I like to make mine as flexible as possible and be able to pack everything up nice and tight and small. So in my particular application for my pedals, I want to be able to wrap up the power for my pedals in a nice small package and shove it into a box, my kit bag, and be able to haul everything in a very small package. But anyway, what I've done is I've built off of a power supply I got from a local electronics store, Radio Shack. I don't know how many of you actually have Radio Shacks left in your places. They seem to be going out of business all over the place, at least in my area. The three that we had are now gone. Anyway, I bought this basically a wall wart power supply, but this is a special kind of wall wart. It's not using a transformer, but it's a switching power supply. So it can supply a lot of current in a very small package. This is 1.5 amps with this particular style of power supply. And of course it comes with a nice long cable. And I've segmented the cable and added the connectors for each of my pedals. And this one was kind of a special deal that I made, where one of the pedals I had actually used this type of phone plug, mini phone plug, for its power supply. But most of your pedals look like this and use the barrel type connectors. And I'll leave notes in the video down below about what exactly, or which size you should use, or the sizes that I'm using anyway that seem to work the best. But in this case, what I did was I no longer have a pedal that uses this type of connection, so I just turned it into a barrel just by adding in the mating connector, a female version of the same connector on the other end, cable version. But anyway, I want to add I have 3 on here. I want to add a 4th outlet, basically. And so I've already made pigtails basically out of all the lines here. So here's the connection that I want to make. And then I need to splice it into the rest of the power supply line. So I'm going to show you how to do that, because in this particular case, it's not just simply soldering a couple of wires together. I need to have basically 3 connections all come together in one spot, and that can be a little bit of a problem, and the soldering can be terrible, and I'll show you how to do that. But basically, at this point, I've already stripped and tinned all the leads, as you can probably see. And so all I need to do is put this thing together. So a couple of the materials I'm using here. Shrink tube. I find this stuff to be indispensable, and I have several different sizes. So you want to be able to get some that will fit the different types of cables that you're using and wires and things of that sort, so that when you shrink the wire, or when you shrink the tube down, you get the right size and it's not a loose fit, because you want the shrink tube to be able to protect your electrical connections. So I have one that goes over, that's going to cover all of the connections. And then I have smaller individual ones that will fit over the individual lines, like so. So when I'm ready to solder everything together, I'll just slip these guys over, heat up use my heat gun to heat them up, shrink them down, and then put the big shrink tube over it, shrink that down over the whole kit and caboodle, and it'll end up looking something like this. However, this one I left them separate. Don't remember why I did that, but anyway, works just as well. I may go ahead and replace that at some point. I've had this thing for a long time, and I made that connection quite a few years ago. But in this case, I want to be able to have this whole thing shrunk down together. So anyway, let's get to it. At this point, I'm ready to solder the leads together, as you can see. I do need to clip this black one down a little bit, though. That's a little bit too long. But let me do that real quick while we're thinking about it. So you do want all your leads to be about the same length. Now, how do you get all 3 of these together, be able to solder them without everything falling apart on you all the time. I'm not going to hold them my fingers like this and bring my soldering iron over here, as would be obvious, of course. So how do you do this? How do you get this these three guys all soldered together? Well, a little trick I was taught years and years ago is to use a strand of copper wire. This is just, as you can see, it's the same wire that I'm using for my little extension here, but I just stripped it back a bit so that I could get to the copper wire underneath. Now I just need to pull a strand off of here and use it basically as a wrap. I'm going to need two of them, but I'm going to show you how to do this on this side, of course, first. And I want to turn this around, and I'll get my helping hands to get everything together here for me, so I don't have to do so much holding. So we got 1, 2, 3. Now I take my wire, I wrap, and you see how I'm going to lay it down a little bit long so that I can hold it with my finger while I wrap, get the negative lines out of the way. And now I just need to wrap all these guys together. Do a few turns to get it all tight and secure. It's probably about good in that direction, and then take the other side. And just wrap it off so that it's nice and smooth. So there you go. Now I just need to clip off the excess and then wrap it so it's smooth. We don't want any sharp points sticking out to work their way through our shrink wrap or our shrink tube when we finally get that shrunk down. Because when solder gets to that wire, it'll make it nice and hard and pointy, and we don't want to do that because then we could possibly give ourselves a short. All right, now just to solder this whole mess together. And as you can see, it obviously holds together nice, just like we want it to. So that's one side done. Now I'll just do the same thing to the other side. Get myself another piece of copper wire. Put everybody together. Do a few wraps. You can see I gave myself a little more on the other end. I want to wrap that around now. I'm going to go ahead and just use it all this time. Everybody is securely tied together here. I don't see any points sticking out anywhere that I need to be concerned about. I'll go ahead and solder these guys together. see a little bit of end sticking out, so I'll get rid of that. There you go. Now, just to slip our shrink tube over these ends, and you want, of course, should be obvious to you to put the join in the center of your piece of shrink tube so you get maximum coverage. And then I'm going to shrink this guy up. All right, those are our individuals. Now for the overall piece, I'll just shrink that on there like so. There we are. Now, all we have left to do is test this guy. Now, here's my voltmeter. So it should be center negative, right? Nine volts, center negative. I'll test the other guys and make sure they're still where they should be. 9 volts, center negative. And of course these guys I'm sure are going to be center negative. Yep. Good to go. Now, we bring in our pedal. And of course, plug it in there for the ultimate test, right? And put a cable in here. There you go. Nice red light. Now here is basically my pedal carpet, as I mentioned in the previous section. In the ultimate test, I've got everything plugged in here. You can see over there I've got the power supply plugged in and all that mess. See a little closer view. And it goes over here to all of my pedals. And click through each of them and see that they each work. Here's my tube screamer. Digital delay. My chorus. And of course the all-important tuner. So there we go. Everything working with the power supply all set up. And as you notice over there, I have a wah-wah pedal. I still need to add another connection for that one, but we'll save that for another video.